Top 18 bugging in mistakes that preppers will make when SHTF. If you wake up tomorrow morning and the streets are filled with rioters, do you think just locking your doors and hiding inside will save you? You are dead wrong. In a true SHTF scenario, the vast majority of preppers will die. They will die a miserable death right inside their own safe rooms. They won't die from a lack of supplies. They will die from common sense traps. Today, we are talking about the top 18 deadly bugging in mistakes. No matter how much rice you have, one of these traps will kill you. Your shelter will instantly become a slaughterhouse for desperate rioters. Are you ready to have your survival mindset completely blown? Let's jump right into number 1. The first mistake is naively thinking your supplies will last a lifetime. Once people start prepping, they fall into an obsessive hoarding mindset, thinking they need to stuff a lifetime of rations under the bed. In reality, this is an impossible task. You have to understand the core logic of bugging in. Hoarding supplies is not meant to keep you alive until old age. It is meant to buy you a precious golden buffer period when disaster strikes and everyone is killing each other over water. Your supplies let you comfortably wait out the most chaotic peak. Once the riots die down, you have the leverage to make your next move. Stop stressing out because you can't store 10 years worth of food. The second deadly mistake is running your mouth and showing off. People subconsciously love to show how much foresight they have. Even if it is your closest relatives, never tell them about your stash. You must realize that people facing starvation have no moral bottom line. When your neighbor watches their child starve, they look at your house. In that extreme environment, you are just a walking buffet. Remember, in this cruel world, the fewer people who know, the safer. Extreme low profile is your best bulletproof vest. The third deadly mistake is making your house look like a fortress. Many people are terrified that others won't know they are preppers. They cover their roofs with conspicuous solar panels. They leave dozens of big blue water barrels sitting in the yard. When others can't get a sip of water, your gear acts like a spotlight. It tells all the starving people that you are a prime target. The real experts understand perfect visual camouflage. They disguise their home to look just as rundown as the neighborhood. All bulk supplies are only moved at 3 in the morning. Cars are driven into a closed garage with the door down before quietly unloading, looking just as miserable as everyone else is the highest level of self-defense. The fourth deadly mistake is blind overconfidence, leaving your safe room empty. Some people just can't stay put, thinking there are still leftovers to scavenge outside. So they leave a house full of treasures and take the whole family out looting. When you finally return exhausted with 2 packs of expired crackers, you will likely find your security door violently pried open and everything you spent your life savings on wiped out by scavengers. Your home is your one and only final retreat in this catastrophe. The moment that door opens, the risks multiply. No matter what massive temptations lie outside, you must leave at least one capable family member behind to guard home base. Never let your fortress fall into an undefended vacuum. The fifth deadly mistake is trusting your life to high-tech security. You drop big money on a dozen HD cameras and infrared alarms, thinking you are foolproof sitting in front of a monitor. But have you ever thought about what happens when the grid completely fails? Cell towers are destroyed and you don't even have a phone signal. All those expensive high-tech gadgets instantly turn into useless plastic on the wall. You need to prep plenty of low-tech physical defenses. Install heavy-duty mechanical deadbolts and door barricades behind your doors. Set up simple tripwires in the dark hallways, or even hang some cheap iron wind chimes by the windows. In the dead of night, even a faint jingle from those chimes is infinitely more useful than any dead smart alarm. The sixth deadly mistake is not having a dog for early warning. Many people think owning a dog wastes precious rations and pure water. But in the dead silence of a blacked out city, a dog's hearing and smell will beat a human's by a mile. It doesn't have to be a massive guard dog with a huge appetite. Even a regular mutt or a small terrier will do, as long as it's alert and highly territorial. cereal. It will bark wildly minutes before thugs silently approach your door. Those golden minutes of reaction time it buys you are enough for you to grab your weapon and take the tactical high ground inside. It's not just a living radar, but a psychological comfort for the whole family. The seventh deadly mistake is storing water without a plan to move it. Anyone with basic common sense knows to use big blue barrels, but most people severely underestimate the physical weight of water. A single gallon weighs over 8 pounds. A full large water barrel easily weighs hundreds of pounds and cannot be pushed. When you are dizzy from hunger and physically exhausted, trying to force it to move is basically risking your life. If you accidentally throw out your back and lose your mobility, in a post-collapse world with no doctors, that is an absolute death sentence. You must prep plenty of small portable water jugs with handles ahead of time so you can safely and easily transport your water supply between rooms. The eighth deadly mistake is not understanding brutal water rationing. On day one of a water shutoff, you might still want to wash your face. In a crisis, that mindset is pure suicide. In the days without tap water, clean water is liquid gold. You must establish an extremely strict water pyramid. The cleanest water goes 100% towards drinking. Next, a tiny fraction is used to cook your life-saving dry rations. Kill those luxurious thoughts of washing your hair or doing laundry immediately. Use a tiny amount of boiled warm water to sponge bathe and keep hygienic. Collect that murky gray water afterward to flush the toilet. Every single drop must be squeezed of its final ounce of value. The ninth deadly mistake is having a family that looks well-fed and glowing. This is the price of standing out at the absolute worst possible time. When people in your neighborhood are fighting over half a cracker, but your family is glowing with health and even gained a few pounds. Those desperate, crazy people will see right through you in a heartbeat. Playing the victim is a mandatory survival skill in this environment. Even if you have tons of canned goods, you should only eat until barely full. When you go out to scout, you must wear worn-out, baggy clothes, making yourself look like you are swimming in them as if you lost 20 pounds. Visually blending perfectly into the crowd of struggling refugees is the only way to minimize resentment and avoid becoming a giant target. The 10th deadly mistake is letting cooking smells drift across the neighborhood. When starving humans undergo a terrifying animalistic evolution of smell, and everyone else is surviving by chewing on tree bark, while you are frying up a sizzling steak on high heat in your kitchen, that drifting scent of meat will drive even the most rational neighbor insane. They will not hesitate to grab breaching tools and smash their way in. Cooking during a crisis requires an extremely strict stealth strategy. Stick to odorless base foods like boiled pasta or rehydrated veggies. Absolutely never fry anything on high heat and never use spices. If you have to cook a secret meal to get your kids some protein, you must wait until 3 or 4 in the morning when everyone is asleep. The 11th deadly mistake is leaking lights at night that invite murder. A citywide blackout creates an extremely oppressive and total darkness. If even a sliver of flashlight beams out through your window blinds, it will be visible from blocks away in a night with zero light pollution. This is equivalent to broadcasting to every cold-blooded looter in the city that someone in this house is alive and has incredibly precious lighting gear. You must prep completely opaque heavy blackout curtains ahead of time. Seal up all exterior-facing windows tightly before sunset without leaving a single crack. At night, limit your movement strictly to interior rooms with no windows. Keep flashlight beams pointed low to avoid bouncing light off the ceiling. Absolute visual stealth is the only thing keeping you alive until dawn. The 12th deadly mistake is playing smart and driving all over town. Having a fully fueled off-road vehicle is indeed a massive advantage. But if the streets are packed with abandoned cars from pile-ups and you are arrogantly cruising around the empty roads, you will instantly become the prize catch in the eyes of every refugee and carjacker. Desperate people will eat you alive just to steal that getaway vehicle. Temporary roadblocks made from abandoned cars will trap you at an intersection. If you absolutely must drive for an emergency bug out, completely avoid all major highways and toll booths. Stick strictly to deserted back roads or off-road dirt trails. And you must have at least 2 backup escape routes mapped out in your head before you hit the gas. The 13th deadly mistake is trying to heat the whole house in winter for comfort. When the heat gets cut off in freezing sub-zero temperatures, burning through all your fuel to warm up a massive house is incredibly stupid. Your pathetic pile of firewood and propane won't even last 3 nights. The smart move is to compress your survival defense space to the absolute limit. Pack the whole family into a single core room that is small and heavily insulated. Seal off the doors and windows of all unused rooms with plastic sheeting and duct tape. Have everyone wrap up in Miller space blankets and layer up with fleece. Set up a micro-thermal tent indoors and huddle together for body heat. Unless you are facing a life or death situation with severe hypothermia, never casually burn up your non-renewable fuel. The 14th deadly mistake is panic eating and burning through supplies early on. The first reaction most people have to a massive disaster is denial. Extreme psychological pressure triggers an escapist mindset where people just throw in the towel. They cook up all the meat in the fridge in a frantic binge, or even run the backup generator all night to watch movies and numb themselves. This is literally hitting the fast-forward button on your entire family's demise. A veteran prepper knows the exact second the grid goes down. They immediately shift the family into a ruthless, wartime rationing protocol, precisely calculating the bare minimum daily calories needed just to keep everyone's heart beating, never wasting a single drop of clean water, a single battery, or a single cracker. How long you live depends entirely on your extreme discipline in controlling your burn rate. The 15th deadly mistake is completely ignoring the invisible psychological killer. Locking a family up like sardines in a dark house for months will slowly drive even the toughest hardcore guy completely insane. The massive weight of claustrophobia will swallow your sanity like a viper. The most insignificant everyday bickering can easily escalate. It can turn into a terrifying civil war that destroys your entire family defense line. While you are frantically hoarding canned goods, you must also hoard mental food, physical books, strategic board games, or even complex jigsaw puzzles. Prep plenty of quiet arts and crafts to burn up your kids' endless energy. Keeping the brain occupied prevents you from spiraling into a mental breakdown. Maintaining high morale is often the deciding factor between life and death in a desperate situation. The 16th deadly mistake is adopting absolute isolationism and treating neighbors like mortal enemies. While you need to keep a low profile and hide your cards, being a lone wolf won't get you far in a long-term crisis. It takes real wisdom to build a moderate grassroots neighborhood defense alliance. This absolutely does not mean foolishly handing over a list of your supplies. It means offering tiny bits of help with harmless, trivial matters, lending out an old wrench, or sharing a simple survival tip, using very low-cost goodwill to vet which neighbors have solid character. So when a massive mob of outside looters tries to sack the neighborhood, you can actually team up, grab improvised weapons, and hold the front gate together. Moderate cooperation is the ultimate survival rule against natural disasters and human chaos. The 17th deadly mistake is letting waste pile up and sparking a fatal plague. The toilets won't flush, and the garbage trucks are never coming back. This is the most disgusting and deadly challenge every bugging in prepper faces. Piling human waste and food scraps directly inside the house will breed tens of thousands of flies and horrific bacteria in just a few days. In a post-collapse world with no IV fluids or antibiotics, a severe case of gastroenteritis and dehydration can wipe out your whole family in days. You must prep plenty of dry composting toilets and ultra-thick medical-grade sealing bags. After every use, cover it with cat litter or sawdust to absorb moisture and odor, then tie it off tightly. Keep all household trash and human waste at an absolute safe distance from your living quarters and water supply. Never skimp on your budget for medical-grade disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer. Elevating your hygiene standards to borderline obsessive is the only way to stay immune to disease. The 18th deadly mistake is relying on Band-Aids for medical emergencies and never practicing. The outside world has completely gone to hell. There are no ambulances and no ARs. Stepping on a rusty nail or getting a tiny scratch can cause sepsis if infected. Your first aid kit cannot just be betadine and cold medicine. You must stock up on potent antibiotics, tactical tourniquets, and basic surgical suturing tools. Family members with chronic illnesses must stash a 6-month supply of prescriptions ahead of time. What is worse is spending thousands on top-tier gear, only to let it gather dust in the garage. When the riots hit, you won't even know how to hook up a hose to your high-end water filter. The truly life-saving move is to pick a weekend, kill the main breaker, and shut off the water valve, and run a 24-hour hardcore drill in a pitch-black blackout environment. Try cooking on a camp stove in the dark and struggle to wash up with rainwater. Let every single muscle in your body build deep operational memory, so when disaster strikes, you and your family's hands absolutely will not shake. These 18 deadly bugging in mistakes. Every single word is a brutal lesson, paid for in blood and tears by those who came before us. Bugging in is never just locking the door, going to sleep, and calling it a day. It is a ruthless survival game of sweating the details, testing your awareness, and pushing your psychological limits. Now, I will leave you with a soul-searching survival question. If your city suddenly plunged into a paralyzed state of anarchy at midnight tonight, based on your current stockpile and level of knowledge, how many days do you honestly think you could keep your family alive? Drop your most realistic estimated number of days right down in the comments. Let's see who behind the screen is the real hidden doomsday survival master. If this hardcore content shattered your naive mindset, remember to smash that like button and share it. And don't forget to hit subscribe. In the next video, I will break down exactly what to do when you run out of supplies, how you can avoid the slaughter outside and make it back alive. See you in the next unpredictable moment of survival.